You think you're responsible and you think you are the glue to hold the family together. And I'm here to tell you that you're not responsible, you are parentified. Being the eldest daughter is a job that you did not apply for, there is no salary. And a lot of us are 30 plus, we are burnt out, we're exhausted, and we've been doing this job for a long time. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the eldest daughter syndrome. And I know it's a word that's been going around TikTok. Everyone's been talking about it. But as an elder daughter who broke free, and now I feel like I'm living the life that I want to live. And this video is a chance to actually give you the permission in order to resign from that job and actually set boundaries and really put into place that, yes, you're the eldest daughter, but I no longer hold that responsibility anymore. And I actually think the other part about being the eldest daughter that people don't really like to talk about is a lot of times you are seen as a safety net. A lot of times when there is financial burdens, there's issues in the family, even sometimes it could be your own siblings, they go to you first. And I know a lot of people who are the eldest daughter and they feel like, well, before I actually spend the money I want to spend or invest in myself, I have to think about my family, I have to pay for certain things. And I really want this video to be an opportunity for you to hear how you can break that cycle and actually audit your life on how did I become the eldest daughter? Where did it come from? How do I actually break the cycle? And how do I actually put boundaries in place so that I feel free? So let's jump into it. So the firstborn daughter is a script that a lot of us have been running for a long time. And I think what's even more clear is that sometimes what ends up happening with a first daughter, which is what happened to me, was you end up being the co-parent, especially if you're in a situation where your parents are no longer together. My mom and dad divorced when I was 9. And so I remember my parents got a divorce. And then oddly enough, a year later, my sister was born and my dad was not around. And I immediately had to step in, especially because my mom was in a situation where, especially back then, because this was over 20 years ago, they did not have extensive parental leave. So my mom basically had to pump all her milk. She had maybe a month with my sister and then she immediately had to go back to work. So quite often I had to step in, I had to take care of my sister, and I was essentially like a second mother. And I think a lot of times as being a firstborn, you're immediately put this role of you are the co-parent. And a lot of women talk about even that they don't really remember childhood, right? They don't really remember feeling free. They don't really remember having that opportunity to explore like a child, explore their likes, their dislikes, right? All they remember was taking care of the siblings. They remember immediately they had to be responsible. I know for me, one of the key things that I had to work through as being the elder daughter in my older part of my life, when I got older, really in my 30s, was this element of perfectionism, right? Because I didn't have the chance to mess up. My brother, who's in his 30s, he's only a year younger than me, he still has an opportunity to do what he wants to do. He still has an opportunity to mess up. He doesn't have to be perfect. And I know for me, I've had this thing where I had to break a feeling like I had to be perfect. My grades had to be on point. There was no room for error, right? Everything about me had to really be in a certain way. And I feel like this script of being a firstborn daughter, it actually grows in very insidious ways, because even interestingly enough, how my perfectionism turned up later in life was through control, right? Where everything had to be controlled a specific way. And I didn't even realize that I had this issue until I actually got married to my husband. And he basically told me one day, babes, you like control. You really like control. Like you really feel uneasy letting me plan a vacation. Our first vacation that we went to Mexico together, we went to Tulum. And I was like, no, I have to step in. I have to do everything. I have to plan everything, because as the eldest daughter, I was not used to letting go. I was not used to someone else can do something for me. And even as I grew up as a child, I just remember consistently feeling like if I don't do it, no one else will. If I don't get these grades together, no one else will. If I don't get into the right college and get the scholarship, no one else will. I don't have a safety net. I have nowhere else to fall back to. So this is 20 years in the making for some of us, right? Especially if you're in your 30s, this is 20 years of consistently being told you have to step up. You have to be responsible. You have to take care of everything. There is literally no room for error. And I really want to explain this to you so that as you're listening, you're like, okay, I'm identifying I have this syndrome. Okay, I'm identifying I relate to that. I connect to that. And I think the other thing that this does is there's identity erasure. Again, because you don't have the opportunity to be a child and be childlike and play and wonder and dream, right? Your identity is not really clear. And many of us now in our 30s are finally having an opportunity to explore, what do we actually like? Some of us ended up being medical doctors, and we realized, wait a minute, did I actually want to be a medical doctor? Or it's because I was the eldest daughter and I was told I had no choice. I know for me, this was a cycle I had to break. As the eldest daughter, my mom was like, you have to be a doctor. My father was like, you have to be a doctor. You have to set example for the rest of us, right? And it wasn't until way into my mid-20s that I woke up and I realized that's not the job I want. That's not what I want to do, right? And I had to break through that cycle. And I'll talk about later in this video the steps in order to create the boundaries and to actually break the cycle. But a lot of us didn't get a chance to figure out, what do we actually like? What is our actual identity? And I think it's important to understand that this erasure happens slowly and it takes time and it's years of buildup. But I'm here to tell you today, sis, you can break it, right? You can actually, in your 30s, still figure out what you like. And you can now, at this moment, figure out, okay, what is the identity that I'm reclaiming? And I talk a lot about this in my framework, right? Which is you have to reset, you have to reclaim, and you have to rebuild. And so for the eldest daughter, a lot of us have to reclaim the identity that was taken away from us. We didn't have the chance, the opportunity to figure out, what do we want to be? A lot of times, two things end up happening. Number one, you are consistently anticipating someone else's needs. I know I still do it. That's probably the one thing I'm still working through, to be honest, where, for example, if I'm looking at my husband and I'm like, okay, does he like that? Does he want this? Does he want that? Or I'm thinking about others before myself. That is a key thing of being the eldest daughter. It's a key symptom of this syndrome, right? And I think the other aspect is people pleasing, right? Because again, you are trying to please your parents. You're trying to make sure to set the good example. Again, there's no room for escape. Again, this link back to perfectionism. And so for over 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, many of us are in this consistent loop where, number one, there is people pleasing. And number two, you're anticipating other needs. But I'm here to tell you, drop it. I'm here to tell you, you got to invest in yourself first. One of the best things I've heard, and I always repeat this to myself, is you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you are empty, if you're drained, and unfortunately, a lot of us in this eldest daughter syndrome take it into motherhood. This is the reason why I talk about, hey, we got to solve this now before you get into being a mother, because you unfortunately pass that on. And then it's almost like you look back, your child's in college and you've never invested in yourself. So it's so important that we arrest this type of thinking. It's so important that we understand that this is a nervous system reset. I talked about this in my other video yesterday where the body holds a score. Literally, your body will tell you that I am not at rest, even though it seems like life is moving and it seems like life is doing well for me and it feels like everything is flowing. But when you really take time to reflect on your nervous system, it's out of whack. I know for me, what I didn't realize in my 20s was that my anxiety was actually started from this eldest daughter syndrome, because I consistently had to be perfect. I had to make sure everything was held together. Again, I had two parents that divorced, and honestly, for years, they were fighting, even way after the divorce. And I think things didn't shift for me until, interestingly enough, I was 27. I'll never forget this day. And I told my mom and dad, we got to sit down and have a conversation. We did. We sat down and I basically told them they have to stop fighting. I said, this fighting, you guys have been fighting for over a decade. You don't understand what it's doing to me, and you don't understand what it's doing to my siblings. And this is never going to end well. And we're consistently not going to have a family dynamic that's positive, and it's consistently going to be toxic. And I had to have that conversation. So that is me breaking the cycle and telling them, yes, as the eldest daughter, I actually use it to my advantage, and I said, look, I'm an adult now, so you need to listen. You need to hear me. And I know a lot of us as eldest daughters, we sometimes have that challenge of not feeling comfortable speaking up and talking and having boundaries, right? But again, I'm going to talk all about how to reset the cycle and all those things. But I think it's important to really first identify, what does it look like? How does it feel? And also understand that this is in your body. Again, I'm always going to advocate for getting coaching, getting therapy, really doing this because it is a mental health crisis at times. A lot of times it hits your mental health in different ways you didn't realize. I know for me, it was anxiety. Sometimes it comes up in depression. It comes up in different types of, even disorders, unfortunately. So make sure you actually get that help in order to work through this eldest daughter syndrome. I know I had to do it. I had to go to a therapist. I went to two, and it really just helped me reset my nervous system, get me to a state of calm, and even nurture myself, because a lot of times, sometimes you have to reparent yourself because sometimes you didn't even get the parenting that you needed. And then let's talk about how being the bank of your family is also really impacting the other parts of your life. And so a lot of times as an eldest daughter, you are seen as the bank, you are seen as the safety net. And quite often what you do is that you put money away and you save because you know you have to have it just in case someone reaches out to you, a family member. I always talk about immigrants. I think this is where it hits us the hardest. We have extended family members who expect us to give them money. They expect us to help them out in their situations. And I feel like if you don't put boundaries of saying no, even sometimes to your mother, right? Now, of course, I'm more than happy to help my mother financially because I have the means to do it, right? But a lot of times people are in this eldest daughter syndrome and they don't have the means, right? Or they're not living the life they're supposed to live because half of their salary is going to their parents, or half their salary is going to, siblings. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and she was saying that essentially she has had to financially foot the bill for her sister. She had to financially foot the bill for her brother. Right. And I was telling her, so where is the boundary? Like, when do you tell your siblings to grow up? Because they're adults, right? Just like you're an adult and you've decided to get a job, to wake up and, to make money, they have to do the same thing. So it's so important that you also understand that how this leaks into other parts of your life. Because if you're not unable to say no to your family members when they see you as a bank, you're not going to be able to negotiate the salary that you need. You're not going to be able to negotiate the business you need. And even if you start a business, you may be scared to put a certain number of how much someone needs to pay you because you have never negotiated before. You never said no. You never set boundaries. So it's so important to understand that you also being the eldest daughter, and if this turns into you being the safety net of the bank, how it leaks into your actual financial aspects of your life, and how it's so important that you have to turn around this scarcity mindset and you actually have to turn that into an abundant mindset, and making sure that if your family members are consistently asking you for money, then you have to figure out a way for them to have their own way, and also being comfortable by saying no. No is a one word. It is a sentence. It doesn't need any more explanation. So here are 3 ways that you're going to resign from that position. Number 1, I'm going to need you to set specific times when these family members can call you. And if someone is consistently calling you from your family, you don't have to pick up. You can always send them a message and let them know, I will speak to you at this time. I will have a conversation with you later, right? The only person that can call me consistently is my mother. And even my mother, I think I've trained her that, hey, I have a life, I'm an adult, I'm stepping out, I'm doing things in the world. And so she now understands that, if she's calling me at all times of the night, I have to let her know, hey, mom, I'm out now. I'm doing this. I'm having this system. Can I call you at this time? And even more pleasant and actually make sure that you have regular time with these family members is actually setting up reoccurring times to connect with them, reoccurring moments to visit them, reoccurring times, because you're not on call. You're not a nurse. You're not a doctor. They cannot call you 24/7. The second thing that I need you to do is I need you to be okay with saying no, and I need you to be okay with disappointing people. And start small, right? If someone says, hey, can you meet me here? Or hey, can we do this? And you're not feeling it. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be part of the activity. Say no. And you don't have to explain. You don't have to expand. You don't have to say more. I think a lot of times, again, as being the eldest daughter, and especially this perfectionism, and I'm going to keep looping that in because that's really one of the key points of this eldest daughter syndrome, is you don't feel comfortable saying no. You don't feel comfortable disappointing people, and you don't feel comfortable putting yourself first. So you have to be able to start small, and the people in your life, start to let them know it's okay. Right? I know for my mom, there's certain things she wants sometimes. Sometimes my father, there's certain aspects they want from me, and I have no problem letting them know I can't do it. I know the other day, my father wanted me to meet him somewhere because he wanted me to meet this extended family, and I already overcommitted to so many things, and I came late. right? And I actually missed the whole thing. And he was like, oh, well, you should have been here earlier. And I'm saying, you know what, Dad, you just told me the other day and I already had scheduled plans. And I was fine. He was fine. You know, so it's okay to disappoint family members, and it's okay because you need to invest in yourself. The last thing I'm going to say is creating financial boundaries, right? All that money that you're consistently giving to your family members, I need you to take some of that money, even if you don't want to take all at first, and I need you to put it towards mutual funds. I need you to put it towards some stocks, right? I need you to put it towards some type of place that's actually making money for you, right? It's okay to actually, one actual bank that I really like that really does this really beautifully is SoFi. So they have pockets where you can like save certain money for certain things. So, hey, if you're like, hey, I want to save a little bit of money for something towards my family, no problem. But I need you to take half of that and I need you to invest in something for yourself. My warning to you is that if you decide to stay the good daughter, you're going to eventually end up the resentful auntie. Okay. So go back, watch this video anytime you need encouragement, anytime you're like, I'm feeling a little weak. I feel like I'm still in this syndrome and I'm not breaking out of it. Go back and watch this video tomorrow, because again, I show up every day for the next 90 days. We're going to be talking about how to restart your life in your 30s. And tomorrow's video, we're going to talk about you're too nice. And I need you to stop that. And you need to move from being too nice to how you can be respected. So I'll see you tomorrow.